Welcome to the R.E.A.L. podcast, where hosts Shane Kilby and Dwayne Murphy dive deep into the world of real estate agent life. From overcoming hurdles to celebrating success, join us as we explore the journeys of industry veterans and rookies alike. Get ready for bi-weekly episodes packed with advice, feedback, and mentorship from the best in the business.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You got the echo effect. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today live or previously recorded for some of you guys that may listen to it, catch it, or download it at a later date. This is the R.E.A.L. podcast, Real Estate Agent Life. So today we have a very special guest with us, none other than Tyler. You have to help me with the last name.
Kabat.
Kabat, okay. That's what I had,
right.
but I was like, if I roll with that, I'm going to butcher that up. Tyler Kabat, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so let's walk into so tell us a little bit about your backstory and how did you come about to be a part of all this real estate success and chaos?
Oh my gosh, yeah. My wife and I started buying real estate. We started with house hacking up front. So we bought a duplex. It was the first house we ever bought. We lived in the upper of an upper-lower duplex. At the time, I didn't know it was called house hacking. I just thought it made sense to live in half and have our mortgage paid for. We had family living in the lower half, so they paid kind of a discounted rate. But, you know, I like to say that my mortgage payment was $150 for 4 years. So that set us up to get started in real estate. And then we just slowly started acquiring properties from there. And then kind of fast forward to where we are today, we slowly got into the short-term rental game, which is how we started building out our property management company in the short-term rental space. And that's the fast track of what happened the last 6 years.
So ladies and gentlemen, when you hear this, listen to that key nugget of wisdom, house hacking. He bought a property that had 2 units and was basically able to offset the bulk of the mortgage minus $150 a month, creating equity, driving down principal, and providing a great home for his family. And like you said, if it hadn't been folks that were relatives of his or family or friends, then he would have probably actually even cash flowed off of that opportunity. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and to bring that experience full circle, we moved out of it after I think the 4th year that we were there. We lived there I think full 4 years. We did a cash out refinance, and the cash out refinance put, I think it was $68,000 tax-free dollars in our pocket. So in hindsight, that was the best purchase we ever made.
Yeah, those are nice. Those are nice.
So, Tyler, now for our listeners, so you got started with the real estate investing by doing the house hacking, doing the cash out refi. I'm assuming then rolling that into another purchase.
Yep, correct.
Before we jump into some of that, because that's more real estate agents need to do investing. It's scary how many real estate agents, realtors in the business, just they help investors, but they don't invest into real estate themselves. And there's a great opportunity there, not only for our realtors, but obviously just the general public, right? So now you've taken those early beginnings and rolled it into, can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of your business today? We didn't get into that at all. Doorway Travel, if I'm not mistaken, and what your business looks like today and what it is that you have going on in the real estate world.
Yes, sure. Currently, so Doorway Travel is my main focus right now. It's a vacation rental property management company. So we manage 32 doors, so Airbnb, Vrbo. About half of those properties, I think 18 of them are client properties, and then my wife and I own 14 doors. So we've got the 14 short-term rentals, and then we've got about a dozen long-term rentals. So I think once we hit that 12th LTR, right, to use the acronym, we started buying vacation rentals, fell in love with the business model, and before you know it, we had 14 of those doors and started taking on clients beginning of 2023. And so right now, all of our energy and focus has been in the property management company. That's our bread and butter.
Great. Now, are all the short-term rentals that you manage or own, right? Either one. Are they all here in the state of Wisconsin?
Most of them are. We do have one condo in Panama City Beach, Florida, which kind of a cool story. We bought it sight unseen. We wanted to find something in Florida. Being in Wisconsin, we wanted a place that we could escape to. And we just reached out to a couple different realtors in the area, told them what our budget was. And we found a condo that is listed as a 2-bed, but someone had remodeled the inside and created a 3rd bedroom. It doesn't have egress, so we can't list it as a 3, and it doesn't appraise as a 3. But what that allowed us to do is it increased our sleeping capacity significantly. So now we can list it on Airbnb as a 3-bed, 2-bath, and it can sleep 10 guests. So it greatly increased our revenue potential with the property, and it does give us a place to go. So we owned it for about 3 months before we actually stepped foot in the place. Our realtor changed the door locks for us. He's the one that took all the photos and video. And so we kind of didn't know what we were walking into, but man, talking about an increase in appreciation, we've doubled the equity, in a short while. So I think we're actually now looking at maybe we should move on from that 1031 that into something else, because there's just so much equity in a place like that.
And not only that, but you identified a potential cash flowing asset, right, that had greater potential than it was even being advertised as.
Correct.
Right. I mean, there was, other investors or other buyers, right, that may have been looking at that going, oh, okay, well, it's only 2-bedroom. We can only sleep 4 and maybe a pull-out couch or something, right, or a couple bunk beds, so we can only sleep 6 or 8 or whatever it may be, right, and looking at that going, I don't know if the numbers work, it's just not worth it, and you were able to take that, identify it, and say, hey, there's a way bigger opportunity than just a 2-bedroom house.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of choosing that market, if other people are wondering, how do you identify a market outside of your local area, right? If you can't be there to walk the streets, how do you know where to look? And we identified a vacation market that's recession proof. So the Panama City Beach area, that's up in the Panhandle of Florida, people drive there from every state that's adjacent to Florida. So even when times are hard, you're still getting vacationers that they might just take a long weekend instead of escaping for a week. And then that market also has a rich history of having vacation rentals. So the chances of the local government stepping in and putting any kind of limitations on our ability to market or host as a short-term rental is very minimal. So it's a very safe market from that perspective. So there was a lot of factors that played into the decision to move into that market and buy the property.
Nice game plan. And so a lot of times you hear outside sources talk about this is contracting, that's contracting. Of course, as real estate as a whole, we've seen some contraction in the marketplace. So with that, which we've had some short-term rentals, of course, some of those we bought a long time ago and they cash flowed better at that point in time than long-term rental. And of course, and times changed in the past few years and the appreciation went up so much on these properties and the rent rate went up so much on these properties. And of course, the cost of maintaining them as well. We ended up able to flip those back to long-term rentals. So how has the market, has it caused any contraction on your STR business, or do you see it the same, or do you see it better?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. What we've seen is there's less demand overall across the entire market. So travelers are traveling less and they're doing it for shorter periods of time. So some of our properties that used to get booked for a week is now getting booked for 3 to 5 days. And then the booking time, so the time from the time of booking is made until that reservation happens, used to be 6 months. People are planning their travel 6 months out, and now that might be 6 weeks or less. So we'll be looking at our calendars for the upcoming weekend. We have a home Packer game, and there's a couple places that aren't booked. It's Wednesday. I'm not afraid of them not being booked. They're going to get booked. But instead of being booked at the beginning of the season or in the summer when the schedule dropped, it's like people are looking at their finances. They've been hit so hard by inflation recently that it's becoming more of a last second decision. So the places are still getting booked, but that week is significantly shorter. And then I was going to say, I want to add the 30,000 foot overview is that the properties that are, let's just say they're average looking, your average vacation rentals are not getting booked. Airbnb's algorithm has changed and they've kind of created a 2-tier system. You now have to do things to stand out in the marketplace or your bookings are going to suffer. So decorations, amenities, your photos got to be better than anybody else's. So it's kind of a two-tier process of what's really hitting the market right now.
That's interesting. But if I'm not mistaken, like the shorter time frame, the last minute rentals, that's better for you as the property owner, right? Aren't the rates better last minute rentals like that, or does it go up or go down for you?
It goes down. So we use a dynamic pricing tool which sets our rates for all the properties, and we go in and we manually tweak it depending upon what we know is happening in each local market. So the pricing software might set something at a specific nightly rate coming up to a local event in Appleton. We have like Oktoberfest, and it might not be pushing that price high enough. We know that we can get a little more out of it.
Gotcha.
So we'll manually tweak those prices, but the software is set that, a week out from a specific date, it's going to drop it 10 to 20%. Few days out, it's going to drop it another 10 to 20%. So it is built in that way. Because at the end of the day, we rather get heads in beds than sit vacant, right? But we do have a price floor. Every property has a price floor. It's not a race to the bottom, and we won't take any guest. A guest still has to meet our client avatar, or we will deny a booking. I'm not afraid to do that because, at the end of the day, especially taking on clients, they expect us to protect their property. That's their investment. So we got to take care of their property first and foremost.
Yeah, something that I've noticed, and you had just hit on a little bit, and it's something that without a doubt that I've noticed from watching your business from the outside that you and Nicole, right, your wife Nicole, are doing exceptionally well and at building your business and I think really servicing your clients is taking those properties and making them stand apart, right? You had said that the average properties are the ones that are not getting rented, that are having the empty spaces, right? I mean, I've seen the pictures of the before and afters of what you do with your STRs, with your short-term rentals and making them pop and giving them certain pieces, in each home that just, right, makes that traveler go, wow, because there are a lot of options now. I mean, you can stay, right? You can just jump on Airbnb, VRBO, and at any given time, right, there's sometimes hundreds to choose from.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's that, it's that one picture or that one piece of that home, or maybe it's that coffee nook or whatever, that little mini bar, whatever it may be, that gets you those bookings.
Yeah, 100%. If you pop out Airbnb on your phone right now, you're going to travel, let's say Salt Lake City. My wife and I are going to be there next week for an event. And so you're looking and you're just scrolling on that first page, and the first one that looks great, you're going to click on. It's the same thing as on Amazon. I want to buy a specific item on Amazon. How often do you click on the second page? Arguably, maybe never. You see something that's got 4,000 reviews, it's 4.8 stars, I'm buying it right there. I'm clicking buy now. You're not clicking to the next page. So there are ways on the OTAs. So OTA stands for Online Travel Agency. That's your Airbnb and your Vrbo, your Booking.com. There are ways to get your property up to the first page. So we're constantly doing little things to tweak, to use the algorithms that the OTAs have provided to make sure that our properties are on that first page. And then, your hero image, which is your first one's got to be awesome. It's got to be the best, because that's all your marketing. If you're using those as your main source of business, it's getting that guest to click on that first photo. And then it's the first 5 Do the rest of them look awesome to get somebody to book? So that is really important. And so to speak to what you're calling us out there, Dwayne, the decor has to be killer. I've got a great case study. We took over a property from one of our competitors. The client wanted to make a change and they hired us, and we signed the contract with them before I'd even walked through the property because there was guests staying in the property for long term. And when we finally got in, my first reaction was, this is a long-term rental that's in rough shape. Yeah. How on earth is this ran as a vacation rental? My list of items that needed to be done before we would even put this property live was pages long, not even exaggerating. And I told the client that. I said, if you want us to continue forward, we need to do these items because that's the standard that we've set, because we understand how the market's working now. And you have to set yourself up to stand out from the competition. Or like you said, Dwayne, this is a property that's close to Lambeau Field. There's 250 options within a mile of Lambeau. So you have to do some extra things. You can't just put anything out there and expect to make money on it anymore. That's just not the case.
Let me ask you this, because, in our early on experience with STR, Airbnb, and VRBO, I guess we had to learn by trial and error and by fire. We made some holiday mistakes around, so we're a college town, so we have a lot of graduations, and we've had our share of big cleanups before. And it took us a little while to learn who not to, because we would look for the reviews of the guests. The guests would check out, but we didn't realize at that time that sometimes guests will book and then turn it over to someone else. So we had to figure out that be mindful of the holidays and the high school graduations and the college graduations and the New Year's Eve and the 4th of July celebrations, because oftentimes we would be in the situation where we would end up booking when someone else's name, and then we have cameras outside and we're like, what in the heck is going on? Like, there's a whole lot of partying going on. I got neighbors calling. I got my friends on the police force calling. I'm like, well, that's not what I was planning on for that $350.
Yes. Right.
So if you guys running that, where did you, I missed that lesson somewhere along the way. I learned it, but I missed it.
But I think I was going to say, before you answer that, Tyler deals with some interesting locations with being outside of an NFL stadium. A certain local team that might bring in a bunch of visitors.
Right. Yeah. The market near Lambeau Field, well, to provide your listeners context, so our business is based out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And so we're right there by Lambeau Field. That's kind of our central hub. It's really its own market. And so we did run into a party situation just last year. And in hindsight, the markers were there and we just overlooked them. It's amazing how much you can glean from a guest just through the messaging. So do they have reviews? Have they been on the platform for a while? Do they make complete sentences in their messaging? Do they use proper pronunciations, or do they capitalize letters? Do they use periods? Do they use apostrophes? Little things like that. And then you ask the leading questions about who are you traveling with? What's bringing you to town? If they're doing a one-night booking on a Saturday and they've got no previous reviews, automatic no, right? No way on earth am I letting that person into the property.
Yeah.
And so we did deal with a party, and, in hindsight, the markers were there. They didn't have previous reviews. There's a couple guardrails you can put in place. One thing that we've implemented is if we feel like we're okay accepting the booking, even though they don't have previous reviews on the platform, we'll require a security deposit. And you tell someone they got to put $500 down and they're only paying $200 a night. You learn real fast if they had ill intentions or not. So we'll require a security deposit and we'll require a photo ID of every adult that's staying at the property. You put that out there, that catches them 95% of the time. If they're willing to put extra money down, usually they have good intentions. So that saved us a lot Just putting that out there on the front end. And you can never be afraid to let a booking go.
Yeah.
I kind of alluded to that earlier. This is an investment and you've got a lot of money stuck into furnishings and decor. It's not easy to swap that couch out when you're between guests.
No.
You don't want to have to deal with that. Burn holes in the rug or pissing off neighbors.
Right.
The last thing you need is Mary down the road complaining about the Airbnb. Now she's going to the town board and complaining. Now they're bringing down ordinances and our entire business model's gone. Right? It's that easy.
And when they bring party favors, it's not as easy to get that house turned for the next guest. It's like, man, it's been good. And my wife handled that side of that she would handle. And so naturally that runs downhill when it creates more pressure on her. So it's, I'm the end guy and the end recipient of that good time. So that's good insight. That's really good insight. So, STR business hasn't been around forever. So, kind of walked into house hacking and how we got to this point. But where at in life did you decide, like, I think I want to be in a real estate game. Like, I want to make that my career path. I want to build an empire around real estate.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Great question. I'm like probably 90% of the real estate investors out there. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 18, 19 years old. And at that time, I thought I wanted to get into real estate right away. I ended up going to college, I ended up going to grad school, I tried pursuing a whole career in the sports industry. And I recognized real quick that you work long hours for no pay if you work in the sport industry. I was an intern, and then there's in the marketing department for an NBA franchise. There's an intern that's unpaid. Then there's an assistant making $8 an hour. The coordinator has been in his role a decade. He's still making $35K. There's a manager above him who's been in his role for a decade, and he's making $50K. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to work 20 years to hopefully make $50K. That's just not going to do it. So once we bought our first rental, what opened the door to us to get into the STR space was that I've got kids. I have 2 little kids. And when we travel, we always like to choose an Airbnb. We want space for the kids to play. I want to be able to shut the door at night, let them be in their room. Mom and dad can have, a glass of wine, hang out in the living room, watch TV, hang out, do whatever we want, and not have to worry about waking up the kids in a hotel room, right? And so we bought that first one down in Panama City Beach at the same time that we bought one local to us where we live here in Wisconsin, and kind of just jumped in and did it part-time. And we just enjoyed working with guests and creating great guest experience because we travel so much and can appreciate when a property is well cared for and a host is super responsive, and just continued, I think, to fall in love with that business model until I was let go from my job and we decided to go all in on it. Now, all our energy and time and resources go into it. And gosh, we could talk for days about the business lessons learned about being a full-time entrepreneur, which I know the 2 of you guys, you probably give us a master class on that.
Well, I think a lot of times we see a vision and we see an income and we see a career path, and then once we get into it, some days we're asking ourselves, what in the hell was I thinking?
Like, is today the day I burn it down and go work for McDonald's? Like,
every other Wednesday.
I tell you what, man, their benefit plan. Shameless plug for McDonald's, right? Maybe in our area, Shane Kilby, it wouldn't be Buc-ee's, it would be Quick Trip. I tell you what, with what they're paying and their benefits, like, some days burn this to the ground. Quick Trip,
Absolutely.
Here I come.
But it's at the end of the day, it's
see you next time.
The good outweighs the bad. Like, we all have those days we're like, man, what am I doing, right? But it's the freedom that we have. Like, if we and a lot of times it's freedom of income, but a lot of times it's the freedom to go to the t-ball game, to go to the soccer game, to go to the dance recital, to go to the to go pick a sick child up from school, or just the kid just doesn't feel well and they just want to snuggle. Like, those times don't last forever, right? And you look at the rest of the world when it comes to jobs, it's like, and I've always looked at it like this: I'm not working anywhere 51 weeks a year to get 1 week, 51 to 1. I'm not going 51 weeks to get a week off. I like that 3 months on, 10 days off, like mentality. And even and I get a lot of grief in that in my current career path. But what those people don't understand is an entrepreneur never gets a day off, ever. 365 days a year, 20 hours a day, we're thinking about business. We're thinking about, the success of the business or the instability of business or the stability of business. There's always something running up here. And we're on our laptop, we're working here. And of course, it does provide us the freedom to do it when the kids are asleep or before they wake up, or when they're in activities and stuff like that. So it's not like we have to take that time back away from them. But at the end of the day, I think it's that ultimate freedom. I think that's what we might come in for the career path and the vision and the money, but we continue forward for the freedom, because that's what the money and that creates in the end. So Tyler, you shared just a snippet there about a career change, from one for someone else to all in on yours. So let's take a dive down that pathway and then kind of go into what you feel like might have been your biggest failure in business. Like, I mean, to become great in any role or any leadership or any entrepreneurial path, we got to go through a lot of failure, right? So tell us a little bit about that and the career change.
Yeah, sure. Well, the failure on the career change might have been believing that I could be an employee for somebody else, when I knew in the back of my mind, I wanted to be doing things my own way because I wanted the time freedom and the control and everything else that came with it. I grew up in an entrepreneur household. My dad was a contractor. And so I was putting siding on houses and framing houses from about age 13. So my dad's now passed. So if OSHA's listening, I know that it's okay. So, I grew up in that environment, and, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad got that belief planted in my mind that I wanted the freedom that came with owning real estate. And I saw that most of the wealthy people in the world own real estate. That's one of their main vehicles. So I thought, maybe I'll work the career and I'll just do real estate on the side. And so I went from being in the construction world into the sports world. Then I got into fitness. I was a personal trainer for 4 years. And then an opportunity came up to join a wholesaling outfit. I'm doing real estate wholesaling. And so that gave me an opportunity. I'm like, all right, this will get me into real estate full time. And I'll be talking with people every day that are real estate investors. And that's when things really took off for my wife and I. That's when we started buying more properties back to back using the BRRRR method, which, if your listeners are aware, it's the buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, repeat method, right, of buying real estate, using equity. Like I used the equity from my duplex, took that cash out and put it into buying more properties. And then I think it was my boss, and I'm super grateful to my former employer. It was them that I think recognized I wasn't a great employee. I was in a sales role, and I can sell really well. I think that's a skill that I have, and I did well at it. But the back end stuff, I have a hard time listening to other people, I can serve my guests. I can serve our clients. I will bend over backwards for them. But at the end of the day, I'm still my own boss. And so you just know, it's in your blood. If you're an entrepreneur, you have a hard time being employed and following the systems and things. You're like, I don't want to do that. Why am I doing that? Don't tell me what to do, And so credit to my former employer. I think they saw that I was ready to be full-time on my own before I even did.
So they helped promote you to full-time entrepreneur.
100%. It was a surprise at the time. And in hindsight, the timing was perfect. There was a period of 3 to 6 months where my wife and I were sitting at the table at midnight trying to plan out our business. And we're like, I don't know how we're going to pay our mortgage this month. We're not going to Costco for another 6 months. We're just going to get the basics. Can we move money from here or there? Or, hey, what can we throw it on Facebook Marketplace, and use that as grocery money? And that's just 2 years ago, because our portfolio wasn't large enough to sustain us. We needed more active income. And I mean, through the grace of God and working 7 days a week, sun up till well beyond sundown, just grinding and having that vision and the why driving us every day was able to get us to a place that we could sustain and now have some successes. Long story short, I guess, to get back to your question about failure, truly don't believe that we have any real failures. We have a very objective approach to everything that happens in our lives, and that is that we either win or we learn. So we got a lot of lessons. There are a lot more lessons than there are wins.
Yes. Yes. I have a whole playbook. It's a whole
My
library
goodness.
full of lessons.
Yes. And I think if you can pull your emotion out of a failure, out of a lesson, and look at the lesson, to look at it objectively and identify what you need to learn from the lesson itself, that's how you grow. And that's the only way you're going to continue to move forward. And if you get bogged down and you see something as a failure, it's real easy to internalize that, and then you start to believe that you're a failure and you're going to keep tripping over your own feet. So at least if you're tripping and learning the lessons, then you're failing forward. And you just keep saying, what's the saying? The guy that has the most learning lessons or has the most failures ends up winning in the end, something like that. Some famous guy somewhere said something similar.
Yeah, no, I've heard that quote stated many times. I think I've drilled that in my head and thought that quote out because I'm like, I sure as hell feel like I'm not stacking up the wins as much as I am stacking up the lessons.
Yes.
And that is a key, that's such a key takeaway for everyone, right? All of us are going to experience, you cannot be in any type of leadership, ownership role, entrepreneurship, and not take some beatings. And right, you might take them every day, right? You're going to learn lessons. But again, how do you look at that? Because you had hit on it, because the majority of business is all mental. Right. Yeah. It's how do you recover? How do you use that? How do you learn from that? Use the word lesson, right? Like, what was the lesson that was trying to teach us? Mm-hmm. Right. Some great faith-based background there of what was that lesson that he was trying to teach us. And that is so huge, because if you look at it differently, as most would, right, that it's, that was a loss, or I fail, or I suck, or whatever it may be, right? You start imprinting that into your mind. You start imprinting that into your subconscious and into your actions and into your thoughts and your spoken word, and all of a sudden there you are, rather than manifesting, what was that lesson, and then manifesting again, taking that lesson and turning it into a success. So that is huge and powerful.
Well, for myself, I'm a very true believer that when you really want that next level of success in life and all things that you do, I myself feel that you're asking the universe, or whatever your belief system is, to give you the obstacles that you need, that are required of you to get to that next level. And we say this all the time, every level has a devil. So it's not like when we get to this next level, it's like we got to be prepared. We can't go, we're not ready from this level to that level. The idea of being at that level, I want the fringe benefits that level brings. However, there's a level of stress and strengths and everything else that we need at that level. So I think that oftentimes, if not all times, we have that obstacle laid at our feet to determine, is this what we really want? Are we willing to go through this obstacle and learn those lessons in order to capitalize at that next level? Really, I just think that's what it is for myself anyway.
Yeah, without doubt.
I couldn't agree more, right? Wasn't it Alex Hormozy had talked about this recently, if let's say, I'm a Christian man, so I use God, and if you ask God, hey, I want to be patient, patience a virtue I want to have. Well, that means that you're probably going to have a lot of lessons where you got to learn true patience, right?
Yep.
I want to be strong. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to experience things as a struggle that's going to make you stronger. Apply that to any quality you want in life. You can't have an easy life and grow as an individual and have all those positive qualities that we seek, especially in a leader and as in a business owner. So you're going to need to face the challenges to learn and to grow.
Yeah, that is absolutely, and I've heard that so many times. I've read that and experienced that. And I kind of shared with you guys before we started recording, how my Sunday travels were scripted and how they completely, that went out the window. And I had, when it comes to flights, like everyone knows, there's this running joke that I have around my house and my team and stuff like that. Like, if we get on the tarmac and the light comes on, we need oil change. I'm okay to pull her back in and let's change that oil. Like, I mean, if you see the low pressure light on that front left tire, and she's 7 pounds light, let's come on back in. We'll roll on back in here. I get off here, go get me some Starbucks. I'll read a book, work on the computer. You go ahead and get that tire changed if that's what you need to do, because I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And our delay, whatever created that delay from the beginning, it was always going to be there since the beginning of time. I feel like that inconvenience was going to be there. And when I'm sitting in Las Vegas at the airport with no entertainment, but the terminal that I was in, no outside entertainment or anything, I'm like, I had a lot of stuff to do. Dwayne, you know how things pile up when we're trying to take leadership to another level. We put a lot of things on the back burner temporarily. And I had fires.
The fires.
Yeah, like I know you moved you bumped your flight up to get out of town early because the fires just keep.
I was going to say, some of us were smart. I was supposed to fly out 6 a.m. Sunday morning too, and I'm like, I was already getting rebooked on Tuesday multiple times for Sunday. And I'm like, Kilby just said it, right? That's a sign.
Yes.
And I was like, and all of a sudden, like, they sent me another, just so you know, like, there might be another rebooking. Don't worry about it. We'll get you rebooked. And I'm like, no, okay. Not the third sign is one that smacks you really hard. And I'm like, I'm going to jump on the computer right now. I'm going to see what's going on in town on Saturday. And I'm just going to move up my flight a day. And I had a couple of delays getting back too. And I'm like, boy, if this was Sunday, it'd have been a mess. It'd have been Monday before back. And it's right. Sometimes it's like identifying those signs. And then not only that, but as as an easy of a thing as rebooking a flight maybe, or is not, right? It's as leaders, right? As owners, entrepreneurs, it's taking that action, right? It's going, ooh, I see this, or I'm seeing this sign, I'm seeing that sign, I'm seeing this trend, and now I need to take action, and get ahead of it, when you can.
Yeah, it's
Tyler, question that I've got for you. So, you had mentioned, you had read the book, phenomenal book. Everybody should read it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, that should be mandatory reading in school. Like, get rid of the textbook and have our kids read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, please, teach an entire subject on it. Other than that book, who would you say, or what would you say has been your greatest influence in life and business for you personally?
Yeah. I give a lot of credit to my father, teaching me how to be a man, how to respect others, how to communicate with others. I watched him communicate with his clients on a regular basis. Ever since I was young, he'd always take me on appointments, whether it was during the week or on the weekend. And so I saw how, you always stand up tall and shake a man's hand, how to communicate, how to treat people with empathy and with respect. So that, I think, set me up well for my career in sales. And then being a business owner, understanding how to connect with, communicate with people, has really set us up for success and for continued growth. I'd give a lot of credit there for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on a personal side, I started this kind of personal growth journey when I was working for some construction company. They did like steel bolted tanks. It's not exciting at all. It was the first job I took when I came back from living out of state. And the guy had a closet full of Tony Robbins DVDs and CDs. Like, he must have owned every Tony Robbins CD that, this CD is, going back 20 years here. But I started listening to him every day on my drive. And I started asking myself, what do I want out of life? What's the kind of person I want to be? What are some areas that I want to grow in? And I feel like for any individual, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or you just want to grow in an area, you got to be asking those questions, or you're just on autopilot. You know, what are you doing 9 to 5? You're doing the same thing 7 days a week, and it just repeats. You live in the same 6 months over and over again. If you don't pause and start asking yourself what you want out of life. So that time with Tony Robbins, listening to my car, driving to and from work, really started me down the personal growth journey. If it wasn't for that, I never would have, I think, taken action to buy real estate. You know, believing that I'm worth it. You know, a lot of self-belief, like you said, Dwayne, it's so much in your head as an entrepreneur. You can take it one or two ways at any given moment. If you believe you're worth it, and if you believe you can do it, as simple as that sounds, you've got to have that belief or you're not going to get anywhere, at least in my experience.
No, that's well said. And there's no telling what the value of those CDs and all that information was. I mean, even back then in the day when those were manufactured, they were probably still $5,000 for that set.
Yeah, you brought me back to my early days in real estate as well. The brokerage I was at had like, you know, a help yourself library, right? It was all the stuff that agents had bought or done or never did anything with, and they threw it on the shelf and donated or whatever it might have been. And to go even older than your CDs, right? It was the cassette tapes of the success, I think it was called the Success Agents Group, right? And it was interviews of ultra successful real estate agents from all over the United States. And I sat there and I listened to every one of them suckers. Like I checked out every single packet, you know, every single bundle of 12 cassette tapes, right? And listen to every single one of them just to be like, okay, what was it? What are they doing? What did they do? What was their mindset that set them apart from all the rest? How can they be doing what they're doing and digesting that? So kudos to you on that, you know, with the CDs and you know, before the days of Audible and YouTube, you know, like there is. Looking back in all of your years thus far, what's something that you would give for advice or say to your younger self, or say it's someone else that's maybe on the same journey as you? What's something that you would have said to you?
Yeah, great question. I feel as though if you want to find success in anywhere area of life, you've got to work on yourself more than anything else. And I feel like I've heard that from so many different areas that it may be cliche to say. But again, in my experience, I feel like if I hadn't been working on myself to grow as an individual, to become the kind of person that can handle increased income and not waste it, the kind of person that can handle managing a team and leading a team, and handle the increased stress and pressure and responsibilities of a growing business. If I wasn't working on myself, I won't be able to continue to take steps forward. And so I feel like that is the biggest one. And no one taught me that. That's something I just picked up along the way. Because I was asked a similar question when I was on a real estate panel with a couple other real estate investors, and you know, they talked about what was their biggest keys to success, and they were both talking about specific tactics that allowed their business to grow. And I said, it's arguably working on myself. Because if I'm not the man that can handle all those things I just alluded to, then the business isn't going to take that next step. We're not going to find that next client if I'm not doing things to learn how to handle the current clients that we have.
I hear it sometimes in, what is it? Faith, fitness, finance. And some swap the fitness and the family in conjunction, in the way that's laid out. But I've heard some wise men and women that point faith first and fitness second, so that they can provide more to their family for longer lengths of time. And then, of course, you know, without family, there's no point in finance. So, yeah, man, that's gold, man. That's good value. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've heard it when you were speaking that advice, right? I had a quote or something that comes with that, right? They always say, fill your own cup first.
Yeah.
Right. So, because you can't fill others' cups, right? You can't pour into others if you don't pour into yourself. And rather than looking at that as, well, I'm being selfish, or I'm, it's about me, no, it's you're filling your cup so you can pour into others. And, whether that's like Shane had said, whether that's in your faith, how can you pour into others, right? If you don't first pour into yourself. And, and it's the same way, right? The fitness, how can you expect somebody else to be fit? How can you expect someone else to be fit in great shape if you yourself are not? If you are not living that, how can you tell someone else to? Mm-hmm. Right. And right. Family, right. You're right. If you are not being that role model of what, right, of what a husband should be, or you're not leading that role model of what a dad should be, right? It doesn't mean perfect, right? Best to your ability, but if you're not being that, right, how can you teach someone else? So that's huge. I have one random question off the script a little bit, because I know you talked about, right, pouring into others and filling your cup and knowledge and just gaining all that, and listening to Tony Robbins CDs. So I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you probably either have an Audible subscription or a few books that you are digesting. What is one book right now that is on your top playlist on Audible, or the book that's in your hand on a regular basis lately that you are digesting?
I am currently reading Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. And I feel like it was written to me, for me right now. I needed that in my life. There it is. Oh my gosh.
If I was in my office and not in the podcast room, I'd be able to reach back and do that same thing. But so Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time.
I mean, Dan Martell, I think, is just on fire. He's getting interviewed all over the world. And this book was written for entrepreneurs. I think any entrepreneur that's, no matter where you are in that journey, whether you got one employee or 500, I think the book applies. And gosh, is that good. I'm treating that thing like a Bible, and I'm reading a chapter and I'm highlighting things, and then I'm pausing and sitting on a chapter until we put some things into action. And against all of my free will, I'm doing a time study. Oh my gosh, that's got to be the worst thing ever. Man.
Yeah. Every 15 minutes for 2 weeks.
That's painful, but the insight, of course, is the best ever. You're not going to identify areas you need to clean up if you don't do that. So, but
yeah, I think I'm on the third time to listen to it, and the second time to read it. I've even downloaded the downloadable stuff and put it into a little. I made a playbook, a binder, to just to be able to log it all. So I'm like, that's all right. I really did that. It's like, I got to get better. I'm playing with marbles.
And it's right, and not to mislead anybody on that with the, right, 3 times listened to, 2 times read, and I think my stats are pretty close to that, because it is a very easy to digest book. But there is so much there. There's so many nuggets. There's so much truth in that book that you can use in business and life, that it's like, okay, you can't just read it, close, and be like, oh, okay, yeah, it was a good book. Like, you read it and you're like, holy crap, like, I got to do a lot of this stuff. I've got to follow this stuff. And then you listen to it again. And you're like, okay, like, shoot, I haven't done the first 10 things.
Well, a lot of us, including myself at times, consume a lot of content, but if we don't act on it, if we don't implement it immediately, we're not going to be able to create a habit out of the quality of and the value of the message that that was delivered to us. And then, of course, we're never going to replace an ingrained bad habit that we already have, right? And I have, in my space, in the world I live in, I have a lot of folks around me that consume a lot of the same content, similar content. And I think it was like, I've always read, but I've always really been the audible, right? Moving in a direction and just making the best of that windshield time. But going through the, journey through 75 Hard and Live Hard with Andy Frisella, really it forces you to read the 10 pages a day, and 10 pages a day, it's 750 pages and just through 75 hard, which is 2 to 3 good, books of personal development and growth. It's a different ball game when you're pulling the words off the paper and processing it, and you can't be distracted. You can't sit in chaos and read. So it changed my mindset, and actually I enjoy it so much now that I do both. And so I've got this mindset where I'll get a title on in Blinkist or Mentorist app, and then if I like it, then I'll move it to Audible, and then I listen to Audible. If I like it in Audible, then I'll move it into hard copy, and then I'll start digesting and processing and reading it through hard copy so I can highlight it and put it in the playbook and those sort of things. But otherwise, just too many ideas, too many thoughts go through. And I guess I know for sure my mind, and I think every entrepreneur's mind, but most probably every human being, but definitely so an entrepreneur's mind.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Well, Tyler, man, you have been an absolute phenom, and appreciate all the nuggets and all the value and gold that you've dropped today, man. It's been great sitting here chatting with you, meeting you for the first time myself, and Dwayne introducing you to me a few days ago, and it's just been a pleasure, man. We're so glad and blessed to have you here on the call today.
Yeah, I'm grateful for you guys reaching out. Glad to participate. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Tyler. So if anyone that downloads or listens to this podcast here in the near future, how can they find you? Where can they find you at, Tyler?
Yeah, you can find me. I do most of my work on Facebook, Instagram, or at our website, doorwaytravel.com, and you can see our offerings there. And I'm sharing all about my personal growth journey on my socials. So happy to link up with anybody there.
Absolutely, guys. You heard it there. Connect with him. He's got some great insight. He's got some great value, and he's a giver. He's got a good heart. He's giving back, and those are the people you want to align with. So if you want to look Tyler up, do so. Facebook, Instagram, and I guess that's all we got. Anything else, Dwayne?
No, I think that was phenomenal. I appreciate your time, Tyler. It is awesome watching your business grow by leaps and bounds, and there's no doubt that you're making an impact in that short-term rental business and in our market, and it's exciting. I think that's a great path, and there's so many different ways to make money, be successful in real estate, and you're just another example of one of those ways to do it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you so much. Guys and gals, if you would, please like and share this episode. And if you have any ideas or would like to suggest a guest to us, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to reach out to those potential guests and have them on the show. Thanks so much, guys, and it's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys. Take care.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the R.E.A.L. podcast. Don't forget to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for more exclusive content. Keep striving for success, and we'll see you in the next episode.